Before Doom 2016, there was Doom 4, a cancelled first-person shooter that was going to act as a reboot of the Doom franchise until 2011 when it was shelved by Bethesda and ZeniMax after an internal reorganisation.
Rip and tear. It's a relatively new anthem for first-person shooter fans, but the basis for it has been brewing since the early 1990s. Doom's fast-paced action revolutionised the FPS genre, so much so that it's often incorrectly credited with being the very first of its kind. That game is, of course, FIFA 95. No, sorry, that's alright. Maze War from 1974. Just as it wasn't the first, it was far from the last, but it might just be the most influential FPS game ever made. In fact, Doom as a series has evolved significantly since its earlier pixelated days. After appeasing an audience frothing at the mouth for more demon-slaying action with Doom 2 and Final Doom, with sprinklings of Doom 64, a PS1 port and user-created levels called WADs, broadening the audience, id Software shifted gears and brought the series into survival horror territory with Doom 3, and, well, it had some pretty cool lighting effects, didn't it? That was cool. I joke, I love Doom 3 equally, even if it's the ugliest of all my children. I've been a Doom fan for almost as long as I have been able to squint at a screen. Rip and tear, my guys. Secretly playing Doom on floppy disk in the dead of night was a formative experience that's really shaped who I am today, and made me definitely a normal person with normal obsessions for sure. The thing about being a Doom fan is you do feel well fed, as long as you don't mind waiting a long while between brand new games, but afterwards you do feel more full than the fat kid out of Matilda. Countless ports of the original 2 games, multiple releases of Doom 3, an expansion or 2, and then of course the 2 most recent entries, Doom 2016 and Eternal, all satiate that need to slaughter demons. But that doesn't quell the disappointment in knowing that there are Doom projects that never were, nor never will be. Post Microsoft's acquisition and the rather open and quite literally shut DLC ending of Ancient Gods, the future of the series is all speculatory. And that guy Midnight sure do be speculating, but it does give us a breather to remember the small number of cancelled and abandoned Doom games over the years. Let us start with what could have been an absolute banger, Doom Absolution, which is not to be confused with Doom Annihilation, which is not to be confused with something that isn't poison for your eyes. I'm the Ultra Knight, and what does that mean? They say it twice. It's like the Doom guy going, I'm the guy of Doom. It's Doom time. Considering it launched only 2 years after the original Doom was ported to the PS1, it's easy to mistake Doom 64 for yet another port if you don't look at any screenshots. On the contrary, the N64 release developed by Midway Studio San Diego instead of id Software boasts a darker, more purpley aesthetic, new sprites that lend a horror vibe, and an arsenal of redesigned weapons. It's a pretty unique entry in the series that is only just now getting the love it deserves as an absolute whipper. Seriously y'all, play it if you haven't already. It only costs a few quid on Steam, or it's even on Game Pass. Anyway, if all had gone to plan though, Doom 64 wouldn't have been the only new Doom experience to land on Nintendo's 5th generation console. Pitched as a multiplayer-only deathmatch-style shooter, Doom Absolution, not to be confused with many of the WADs of the same name, would have been the first and, as it turns out, last Doom game to first and foremost focus on multiplayer, kinda like Turok Rage Wars. Unfortunately, it was a lofty goal for Midway, who, to be fair, never seemed to have their house in order for long. Not only did it stand to go up against a multiplayer giant by the name of GoldenEye 007, but it would also need to make the Doom formula work as a split-screen competitive multiplayer game, something that not even the development team was allegedly that confident about. Back in 2002, yes 2002, one of the last good years ever, Doom Depot member Firebrand X claimed to have spoken to Doom 64 lead programmer Aaron Sealer regarding the cancelled project. According to their conversation, Sealer called the team behind the game deathmatch purists, stating they couldn't get past the idea of a split-screen deathmatch. So the project was scrapped, with not even concept art released to the public. Unfortunately, that's where Absolution's legacy pretty much ends. In a 1997 post, IGN announced that Absolution, described as a sequel to Doom 64, was officially canned. We did end up getting a fan-made attempt instead, but it's not quite the same for obvious reasons. That's a shame, but how about a Doom game that never even got beyond some very pixelated screenshots in a Croatian gaming magazine? In 1994, Croatian video game developer Croteam entered the scene with Football Glory for the Amiga. Doesn't ring a bell? Maybe we need to fast forward 7 years to 2001, when an alien-fighting soldier travelled to ancient Egypt as humanity's last hope for survival. Serious Sam: The First Encounter kicked off a cult first-person shooter series that kept Croteam on the map for years, with the series even getting 2 new games as recently as 2022. However, Sam wasn't the only gruff hero the team hoped to follow into a world-saving adventure. In the May 2000 issue of Croatian gaming magazine Gameplay, Croteam made the shocking reveal that it had pitched an idea for a new Doom title to id Software. While the interview itself has sadly been lost to poor archiving, Daniel Lucic, Devolver Digital's current and Croteam's former marketing manager, confirmed in the developers subreddit that the interview and the Doom pitch are real. Though virtually nothing is known about Croteam's pitch, a page full of screenshots allegedly shows concepts that were eventually used in Serious Sam 3 BFE. Some of the designs from BFE, including the, I don't want to say this, Joe, just in case, so can you pop it on screen for me? Thank you very much. And the ghastly Scrapjack bear striking similarities to Doom favourites the Baron of Hell and Mancubus, respectively. Along with some character designs, there are other elements of BFE that suggest it started as a different project outside the Serious Sam scope. An unusually realistic colour palette not typical for the series and more claustrophobic urban levels align better with a tense demon slaying experience that brings to mind Doom 3, or even the next game, which, even though I'm convinced it would have sucked the wrong end of a super shotgun, I still want to see how it turned out. We're finally getting into territory where there's actually plenty to show and talk about. Though Doom 4 has long since been scrapped, many elements have leaked over the years since its cancellation. They're still circulating the internet today, and some are still getting released pretty recently really, giving us the opportunity to ponder many what-if scenarios, like what if you subscribed? Would all your dreams come true? I can't promise that, guys, but yes they will. Unlike the previous 2 unreleased Doom titles, Doom 4 was actually midway through development before id Software decided to pull the plug. In a multi-part documentary on Doom from the NoClip channel, which you should absolutely subscribe to by the way, id Software artist Kevin Cloud confirmed that ultimately the development team wasn't happy with the game's direction. What we had done, we explored a direction and got to a certain point and felt like this wasn't capturing what we felt like was going to be a strong Doom. Cloud explains against the backdrop of footage of what's being referred to as Doom 4 1.0. Long before the documentary though, id Software had pieced together a concept trailer that was a far cry from the Doom we've come to know and love. The trailer introduces a ragtag team, but really, when are they ever not ragtag? When you get soldiers together, they're always ragtag. Why are they never just like efficient and good at their jobs? Of soldiers thrust into the middle of a demonic invasion. The battlefield is Earth, but it's not at all like the fractured landscape we traversed in 2020's Doom Eternal, and also not like that John Travolta movie. It looked a lot, to me at least, like the almost forgotten Resistance series on PS3. An urban setting and more cinematic visuals spawned the title Call of Doom among viewers, which Doom 2016 game director Marty Stratton did not refute. It was much closer to something like that. A lot more cinematic, a lot more story to it, a lot more characters around you that you are with throughout the course of the gameplay, Stratton explained. Hugo Martin, id Software's creative director, likened it to a more grounded story a la Robert Zemeckis' Contact, stating it was more realistic and more about the global impact of a hellish invasion. Stratton further talked about the direction of the game, noting mechanics like taking cover and the distinct demon design, which differed greatly from Doom 3's hellish cohorts. Unlike the Doom 2016 reboot, Doom 4 was also set to have a slow burn start, with players duking it out with zombie-like enemies for a while before the demonic threat even reared its ugly head. All of this sounds pretty damn interesting as a game, but Martin pinpointed the issue with this direction during the Doom documentary. As a concept, I could see why they went there because I would probably want to explore that too if it wasn't a Doom game. To tell a big story, it sacrificed the Doomslayer. Oh yeah, it had no Doomslayer. What is this? Doom 3? Well, we'll never get this version of Doom 4. There are plenty of consumable bits of it out there to enjoy, from creature concept art to cinematic story trailers and gameplay snippets. Now we're just waiting for someone to inevitably start piecing together a playable build of this thing, but we're still more upset that we will never be able to ruin people's days and Kool-Aid Man their Ultra Nightmare runs. Do you remember Resident Evil 6?
Oh! You unzipped me! It's all coming back!
Ooh, sorry. Do you remember the 6th Resident Evil game and its weird multiplayer mode where players could join another's playthrough as a monster and wreak all sorts of havoc? Yeah, well, wouldn't that be incredibly cool for Doom? Imagine you're just plugging along, shoving shotgun shells into lowly demon faces, when suddenly up against a demon that seems almost smarter than you. It would be a welcome challenge in a series that rewards creative solutions to a hellish threat, because after all, hell is other people. I am reminded of this every time I go to Home Bargains. That was the concept behind Invasion Mode. The planned multiplayer update to Doom Eternal revealed at QuakeCon 2018 that was originally meant to be available at launch. However, in a disappointing tweet from Eternal's executive producer Marty Stratton, the free update was scrapped, instead replaced by something a little bit, let's be honest, safer. According to Stratton, we actually have the 2020 COVID pandemic to thank for this, as the dev team was unable to efficiently work on the multiplayer mode, allegedly partially due to a remote workforce and the fact that they had to crank out 2 different DLC packs. Instead of Invasion Mode, Stratton confirmed that the resources would instead go toward developing a single-player Horde mode. While the new mode, which was available as of update 6.66 in October 2021, certainly satiates the need for endless demon slaying, it doesn't replace the brilliant mischief players were prepared for with Invasion Mode. Considering most demon encounters in Eternal are mini-hordes, a dedicated Horde mode was a logical addition. Unfortunately, that still left the game with just one multiplayer mode, and while the 2v1 setup of battle mode is at least pretty unique and entertaining, at least for about 15 minutes before you realise some guy in Bulgaria may actually be the Doomslayer, a unique way to rip and tear other players, a new one could have made Doom Eternal that much better. I sure am glad this is only temporary. That would have been stupid, wouldn't it?